Purpose over pleasure. That's one that I've heard. I've also heard a saying that goes, your purpose is greater than yourself. To me, that means that a person's purpose on this earth, in this lifetime, that their purpose is greater than themselves. So knowing that, and knowing what I've learned over this last year already, I believe that people are depressed, not because they have some kind of imbalances or they're depressed, they're taking this medication that doesn't fucking help. They're depressed because they're not living for their purpose. People are living for their pleasure, for that instant gratification. They're living for the ego. The ego is the one that wants the pleasure of material things. The ego is the one that says, I will be happy when I get this car. Then you get the car and the ego's like, well, I'll be happy when I'll get this raise at work now. I can actually afford this car. Then they get the raise at work, and then the ego's like, well, I'll be happy when I get another promotion so I can get a bigger house, so I can do this, so I can do that. I'll be happy when I can go on a vacation and get away. I'll be happy when. That is why people are fucking depressed, because they are selfishly living for themselves, living for their pleasure, putting their pleasure over their purpose. When you live for your purpose, you are in service to others. Pleasure is service to self. Living for pleasure is service to self. Living for purpose is service to others. Now, the reason I say all this is because a depressed person is incredibly selfish. If they take their thoughts in their head, because I've suffered depression, I'll be like, oh, you can't say this and fucking blow whatever. No, I've suffered depression, so I know. Just like I could talk about addiction. I'm an addict, so I could talk about it in the way I talk about it. So when it comes to depression, self-talk of a depressed person is incredibly selfish. It is, I want, I'm not getting, me, mine. That's all it is. There's nothing in there about another person, because all they are concerned with is living for the pleasure. Now that I know my purpose and I am almost full steam, pretty soon here I'll be going full steam every day on not missing one single marker that I have for the day, not missing one goal that I have for today. Pretty soon I'm going to be on that level. I'm going to be living for my purpose. I'm already living for my purpose, but now that I know what it is, I don't have any kind of negative thinking, negative thoughts. When the ego comes in, I could shut that shit off really quick. I'm learning really quickly how to master the ego. When these thoughts of self-doubt and fear come up, when I start thinking, I'll never be able to do what I want to do. There's so many people out there that's better than me. There's so many people out there that they have a better story. They've been through this. They've done that. As soon as I start hearing that talk in my head, as soon as the ego starts popping off its bullshit up in my head, then the other voice, that's the true self, because you hear the ego, and then you hear your true self. Your true self, that would be your conscience. That's the one that you're supposed to listen to. That's the one you want to listen to. That's your true self. That's when my true self steps in and says, you know what, I am good enough. I do have the knowledge. I do have everything that I need and more to be what I want to be successful. And I also believe that when you start living for your pleasure, you can't living for your purpose. I believe when you start living for your purpose, you cannot fail, because you're in alignment. You're in alignment with your higher self. You're in alignment with the universe. And when you're in alignment and you're living for purpose, you're not living to satisfy the ego, you cannot fail. You won't fail. So stop looking for these medications to cure this disease that they call depression, which is not. Get up and start living for your purpose.